nail, nail, nail. Stop biting your nails. Stop biting your nails. Naked, naked, naked. They found him half naked and bleeding to death. They found him half naked and bleeding to death. Name, name, name. Do you know the name of this flower? Do you know the name of this flower? Narrow, narrow, narrow. There was only a narrow gap between the bed and the wall. There was only a narrow gap between the bed and the wall. Nation, nation, nation. The entire nation, it seemed, was watching the match. The entire nation, it seemed, was watching the match. National, national, national. These buildings are part of our national heritage. These buildings are part of our national heritage. Native, native, native. Her native language is Arabic. Her native language is Arabic. Natural, natural, natural. The clothes are available in warm natural colors. The clothes are available in warm natural colors. Naturally, naturally, naturally. Did you complain about the noise? Naturally. Did you complain about the noise? Naturally. Nature, nature, nature. She is very sensitive by nature. She is very sensitive by nature. Navy, navy, navy. The Navy is considering buying 6 new warships. The Navy is considering buying 6 new warships. Near, near, near. His house is very near. His house is very near. Nearby, nearby, nearby. Her mother lived in a nearby town. Her mother lived in a nearby town. Nearly, nearly, nearly. He's nearly as tall as you are. He's nearly as tall as you are. Neat, neat, neat. She was wearing a neat black suit. She was wearing a neat black suit. Necessarily, necessarily, necessarily. Biggest doesn't necessarily mean best. Biggest doesn't necessarily mean best. Necessary, necessary, necessary. Only use your car when absolutely necessary. Only use your car when absolutely necessary. Neck, neck, neck. Giraffes have very long necks. Giraffes have very long necks. Need, need, need. Don't go, I might need you. Don't go, I might need you. Needle, needle, needle. She bought some knitting needles. She bought some knitting needles. Negative, negative, negative. The crisis had a negative effect on trade. The crisis had a negative effect on trade. Neighbor, neighbor, neighbor. Our next-door neighbors are very noisy. Our next-door neighbors are very noisy. Neighborhood, neighborhood, neighborhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood. Neither, neither, neither. Neither answer is correct. Neither answer is correct. Nephew, nephew, nephew. He is my nephew. He is my nephew. Nerve, nerve, nerve. Every nerve in her body was tense. Every nerve in her body was tense. nervous, nervous, nervous. Consumers are very nervous about the future. Consumers are very nervous about the future. Nest, nest, nest. Sparrows build their nests of twigs and dry grass. Sparrows build their nests of twigs and dry grass. Net, net, net. You can buy a mosquito net to protect yourself from mosquitoes. You can buy a mosquito net to protect yourself from mosquitoes. Network, network, network. The road network in the country is in a better condition now. The road network in the country is in a better condition now. Never, never, never. He has never been abroad. He has never been abroad. Nevertheless, nevertheless, nevertheless. Our defeat was expected, but it is disappointing nevertheless. Our defeat was expected, but it is disappointing nevertheless. New, new, new. This idea isn't new. This idea isn't new. Newly, newly, newly. South Sudan is a newly independent republic. South Sudan is a newly independent republic. News, news, news. What's the latest news? What's the latest news? Newspaper, newspaper, newspaper. I read about it in the newspaper. I read about it in the newspaper. Next, next, next. The next train is at 10. The next train is at 10. Next to, next to, next to. We sat next to each other. We sat next to each other. Nicely, nicely, nicely. The room was nicely furnished. The room was nicely furnished. Niece, niece, niece. My niece is called Rose. My niece is called Rose. Night, night, night. These animals only come out at night. These animals only come out at night. No, no, no. Another drink? No, thanks. Another drink? No, thanks. Nobody. 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 Nobody knew what to say. Nobody knew what to say. Nod. 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 I asked him if he would help me and he nodded. I asked him if he would help me and he nodded. Noise. 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 They were making too much noise. They were making too much noise. Noisy. 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 The engine is very noisy at high speed. The engine is very noisy at high speed. None. 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 We saw several houses but none we really liked. We saw several houses but none we really liked. Nonsense. 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 I won't go. Nonsense. You must go. I won't go. Nonsense. You must go. Normal. 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 Her temperature is normal. Her temperature is normal. Normally. 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 It normally takes 20 minutes to get there. It normally takes 20 minutes to get there. Northern. 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 We reached the northern slopes of the mountains. We reached the northern slopes of the mountains. Nose. 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 He broke his nose in the fight. He broke his nose in the fight. Not. 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 He must not go. He must not go. Note. 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 Please, make a note of the dates. Please, make a note of the dates. Nothing. 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 There's nothing you can do to help. There's nothing you can do to help. Notice. 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 Don't take any notice of what you read in the papers. Don't take any notice of what you read in the papers. Noticeable. 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 Her scars are hardly noticeable now. Her scars are hardly noticeable now. Notion. 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 I have to reject the notion that greed can be a good thing. I have to reject the notion that greed can be a good thing. Novel. 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 I like reading historical novels. I like reading historical novels. November. 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 We left in November. We left in November. Now. 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 It's been 2 weeks now since she called. It's been 2 weeks now since she called. Nowhere. 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 There was nowhere for me to sit. There was nowhere for me to sit. Nuclear. 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 There's a nuclear power station near the river. There's a nuclear power station near the river. Number. 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 Think of a number and multiply it by 2. Think of a number and multiply it by 2. Numerous. 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 The advantages of this system are too numerous to mention. The advantages of this system are too numerous to mention. Nurse. 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 We need a nurse in here. We need a nurse in here. Nut. 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 He bought some nuts to eat while watching the match. He bought some nuts to eat while watching the match.